Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game that was played yesterday in Jan Nepomniachtchi's Banter Blitz session on chess 24. A lot of you have been requesting Jan's games as he's the challenger to Magnus Carlsen in their World Chess Championship match in November, and I decided to show you this one. It's a fun Blitz game. It features an opening that you might try and use in your own Blitz games online, so do try that as well. But we are of course going to check out some more classical games, worry not. So that being said, let's check out this game and see what happens. So he's facing Mathman. He's an international master, and that's all that we know about him, hence the hoodie. Hope you guys are wearing one as well. Now let's check it out. So Nepo with the white pieces opens with d4. We have knight to f6, knight to c3, and now d5. We have bishop to f4, and now bishop to f5, going for a symmetrical developing moves, and now the immediate knight to b5, going for the c7 pawn. And already black has only one move here, knight to a6. He has to defend the pawn. We have e3 by Nepo, and now e6. You could also just chase away the knight with c6, but no one ever plays this, because after the knight moves, yes, you can bring this knight back into the game. But where is this knight even going? It doesn't really have any good squares or any prospects for the future of the game. So instead, after e3, we have e6, and now knight to f3, just continuing development, bishop to e7, and now there are some moves that have been played here. Nepo goes knight to e5, and this is now a new move in the position already as of move 7, is that we have a completely new game. So here we have castles. Castles is maybe a bit premature here. A move you might consider, but it's hard to figure what to play here for black. A move you might consider something like knight b4, going after the c2 pawn. Doesn't really work because there's this very nasty knight captures on c7 with check, and now black is, without a good move. He has to play king to f8, because if you capture the knight, then you get bishop to b5 check, and now nothing really works for you. If you block with the knight, then knight captures and opens up a discovery towards the queen, so you can't capture back. And if you don't block, if you go king to f8, then we can just play knight g6 check and pick up the black queen. So there's also that. Let's say h captures, bishop captures on c7. So instead, after this knight to e5 move, black decided to castle, but now white gets a very nice initiative going by immediately jumping in with g4. So the bishop is under attack, the pawn is defended by the queen and by the knight. We have to move the bishop back, and now h4, already threatening to trap this bishop with h5 and f3. So here h6, we have to make room for the bishop, and then now comes, you could continue with the g5, pushing the pawns, knight captures on g6. And here Nepo does kind of ruin black's king side. We have f captures on g6, and now bishop to d3, going after this undefended g6 pawn. So knight to e4, preventing this, and now the immediate g5, saying that if you capture here and open up my h file, that's going to be really bad for you, because, for example, captures, captures, and captures, we can just play queen to g4, and not a lot for black to do here. For example, if you capture, we're just gonna capture here. We're gonna castle, maybe bring the other rook into the game. Not a lot of fun. We're gonna play f3, kick away this knight, win this pawn, control these squares, maybe even easily checkmate the black king. A lot can happen here. So instead, after this g5 move, Mathman decides to close the position, and now knight back to c3, saying that I really want you to move this knight so I can pick up this pawn. But here Mathman says, okay, bishop to b4. Now I'm threatening to win material here, but Nepo just nicely gets out of the way with king to f1. And this is one of the nicer ways to utilize this move, and it's not a rarely played move. It's actually played very often when white goes for the similar ideas, like maybe in the London system, you're just gonna play king f1, push the king side pawns, and try and win the game quickly. But okay, here we have bishop captures, b captures, and now you could go for the c3 pawn, but it seems that he decides against it, because if you go for this, then you get something like queen e1, attack the knight, and now if the knight goes back, now you just kick it away with f3, and then you're gonna win this pawn. Or black has to go for some e5 ideas, which will not end all that well. So instead, after b captures on c3, we have the immediate e5, and now what do you play here? Well, d captures on e5, and now why this pawn sacrifice? Well, by removing the pawn from d4, you won the c5 square for your knight. So here, knight to c5. This is how you get the knight back into the game. King to g2. And now comes knight to e6. Again, knight captures on c3 is a possibility, but the black decides against it. Knight to e6, and now as the bishop is under attack twice, bishop to g3. We have queen to e7, and now finally f3, kicking away this knight. We have rook a to d8, trying to trick Nepo, because if the knight is captured, then we can just capture with the pawn, and then the bishop cannot move. The rook and queen are on the same file. So instead, after rook a to d8, we have queen to e1, and now knight captures on g3. We have queen captures, and now queen to f7. So it's a very, very tricky position, but one thing that you can notice is that white is still up a pawn. White has 8 pawns, black has only 7 pawns, and should everything get traded off the board, that would be most likely a winning game for Nepo. So here, rook a to d1. And now comes c6. Finally, that c6 move happens. Now the d5 pawn is nicely defended, and f4 now. And if you look at the position now, still, it's not easy for white to break through. White will, of course, try to get something happening along maybe the f file, maybe try to get f5 in, but black will do everything knight to allow that. So here, knight to c5, attacking the bishop, and rook h to f1. We have queen to e6, and now, again, the f5 square is very nicely defended. So here, Nepo goes for queen to h3, and he says, all right, we trade queens, and then, we just play this endgame. For example, if the queens get traded off, captures, let's say knight captures on d3, c captures, it's maybe playable for black, but very, very hard to say. White is up a pawn, and his position is better. He's going to bring the king to f3, probably position the rooks on the b file, maybe double them up, push this pawn all the way up, and somewhere make a breakthrough, and then enjoy his extra pawn. But okay, after queen to h3, we have rook to f5. Black decides for this very, very tricky idea, where if Nepo accepts the rook, then g captures, and then black really closes the pawn structure completely, and it's hard to say if you will be able to break through. The knight on c5 is just a monster, because white doesn't have a b pawn or a d pawn to chase it away, and the knight will nicely guard the b7 pawn. So here it's very unlikely that you would be able to break through. Probably you can, but not maybe in a blitz game, as these are blitz games. So here instead of just grabbing that after rook to f5, Nepo decided to eliminate one of the defenders of the e4 square. He played c4, undermining d5. So here we have knight captures on d3, rook captures on d3, and now b5. And here you can still kind of play the game if you, let's say, play some like rook d to f8, but it's still going to be very hard. But here b5 was played, and now Nepo just played c captures on b5, c captures on b5. And now, without even pausing the video, I know you guys know what Nepo played, but just in case, have at it, win the game, there is one move that really eliminates black. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on realizing that we've removed all the defenders, and now we can finally push it, and that is e4. So congratulations to everyone who found it. After this was played, Mathman resigned the game, and a very nice win for Jan Nepomniachtchi. So here you cannot do anything, because if you capture with this pawn, then you lose the rook. You can't really move the rook, because then you lose the queen. And other than that, there is really not much you can play here. You can play some weird moves, but we very rarely analyze those. Really a nice one, and thought you guys might enjoy this. It's very, very easy to play it. Just, d4, knight c3, bishop f4, and you go after this pawn, and it looks like a barbaric thing to do, but, you might enjoy it, and maybe your opponent doesn't really know what to do with this, so, try it and see what happens. But yeah, like I said, after e4, Mathman resigned, and a wonderful victory for Jan Nepomniachtchi. So like I said, we're going to be, up until November, we're going to be covering more and more of Jan's games. If you have any of that are your favorites, do suggest them, especially if they're very unknown. So we enjoyed those the most, but we are going to go through some of them and see what is in store for Magnus, and we're going to be discussing the World Chess Championship match as November nears. So yeah, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Austin Del Rio, Rageb Al-Khailani, Justin Brockhouse, Frederick Rusek, and Akram the Pilot for contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphe saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.